Jaun Elia, a poet who addresses his beloved directly. Born on December 31, 1931, in Amroha, Uttar Pradesh, Jaun Elia came from a scholarly and literary family. I deny my poetry more than even my worst enemy could. Sometimes I find my poetry bad and meaningless. This is why I have not published any collection so far, and it will not be published until God himself makes it happen. These lines are from Jaun Elia, a globally renowned poet recognized for his unique style of poetry. Jaun Elia, a poet who introduced the world to a new way of poetry, amazed people by giving words a fresh expression. Yet, as Jaun Elia himself stated in the lines above, he was his own harshest critic. This is evident from the fact that despite beginning to write poetry at the age of 8 and captivating audiences at poetry recitals in his youth, his first poetry collection, Shayad, perhaps, was published in 1990. By the time readers held this collection in their hands, Jaun was almost 60 years old. In the preface titled Niyaz Mandana of Shayad, Jaun wrote, "This is my first poetry collection, or perhaps my first acknowledgement of defeat, published after a delay of 29 to 30 years. It is the poetry of a failed man. Why be shy in admitting that I lived in vain?" Born on December 31, 1931 in Amroha, Uttar Pradesh, Jaun Elia belonged to a scholarly and literary family. Under the guidance of his father, Shafiq Hassan Elia, he delved deep into the intricacies of linguistics. Since Shafiq Hassan was well-versed in Arabic, Persian, and Hebrew, his influence greatly shaped Jaun Elia. Jaun formally studied Arabic at Deoband and even announced the publication of translations of several Arabic books like Kitab al-Tawasin. However, much like most of his poetry collections, such as Yani, Goya, and Lekin, these translations were only published after his death. The youngest of 5 brothers, Jaun Elia had a deep interest in linguistics. His close relative, Said Mumtaz, once said, "Jaun had a profound interest in linguistics. After learning Arabic and Persian in the madrasa, he mastered English and later developed a strong command of Hebrew and Sanskrit as well." One aspect of Jaun Elia's poetry that can never be overlooked is how he distanced himself from the traditions of progressive, modernist, and existentialist poets, who predominantly focused on the issues of self and the universe. Instead, Jaun revived the themes of love and romance in poetry after Mir and Momin, pouring out verses, ghazals, and couplets drenched in the sorrows of separation, union, and pain. While staying rooted in the traditional grounds of Urdu poetry, Jaun Elia remained a seeker of an ideal life. However, where do we find morality in real life? It is often filled with deceit and pretense. This is why his poetry often reflects anger and frustration. When this resentment and irritation become part of his poetry, it transforms from classical romantic poetry into an expression of love and hate between men and women grounded in realism. Such poetry is abundant in Jaun Elia's works, and this very characteristic became his true identity. Jaun Elia's heartache and anguish intensified significantly after 1984, when his marriage to renowned columnist Zahida Hina ended. Already appearing disillusioned and frustrated with the world, the divorce broke him completely, plunging him into deep depression. During his lifetime, Jaun Elia became even more celebrated after his death. A significant credit for this goes to his close friend Khalid Ahmed Ansari. When Jaun passed away on November 8, 2002, only one poetry collection, Shayad, had been published. Later, in 2003, Yani was published, a collection Jaun had compiled himself but could not get published. Subsequently, many poetry collections saw the light of day through Khalid Ahmed Ansari's efforts, and Jaun Elia became a global phenomenon. Initially, due to his participation in poetry recitals, people considered him primarily a ghazal poet. However, his poetry collections revealed that he was equally adept at composing poems and quatrains. One of his quatrains, which exemplifies his distinctive poetic style, states, "Here's how you can conclude in English." This was a glimpse into the life and poetry of Jaun Elia, a poet who forever changed the landscape of Urdu literature. His unique verses continue to touch countless hearts even today. How did you find this video? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos on such fascinating topics, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Chronicle, and hit the bell icon. Thank you for your time and see you in the next video.